Hey, what's up YouTube? Chris Gardiner here, and today I'm going to show you how we can complete something similar to this. This is a pretty simple version, but it could be useful to your clients in real estate marketing. So it's actually cheaper and easier to accomplish than you are probably expecting. So let's quickly go over how we can do that in this video. Okay, so here we are, Sweet Home 3D, free software available on all platforms. Important part is getting it set up. So there's a few decisions to make depending on whether or not you are rendering or making floor plans, 2D only. But let's just run through it all. So foot, inch, fraction, I like to work in whatever I've measured in and whatever typically I am delivering in as well, because a lot of times I want to read measurements I take inside this software as well. I'm like that. Ignore prices. You can actually use this for estimating costs even. I don't use it like that, so I won't speak to its features. Most of these are the default. So importantly, what I want to do is I like to change my new walls pattern in plan. I want these to just be flat black because they will just render at all resolutions a little better. And then as well, this new walls thickness, it starts at 3 inches. I don't know why that is the case. Call it a 10-inch wall deep. New walls height. Now this is important for your 3D rendering. I like to do cutaway views, and there are ways to cut away in your render, but sometimes I find you get a cleaner result if you can build it that way, especially if you don't need it built as a full height building. So one of the ways to do that is I set this to something like 4'2" height of walls, and that's about it. We're going to hit OK. Alright, so we have our Sweet Home 3D more or less set up. There's a few other things we can do. I'm just going to touch on them briefly. I've mentioned them in other videos I've done on Sweet Home 3D, since we kind of do a little walkthrough for 2D floor plans. Maybe about 2 years ago I did that video, maybe even longer. And that's just getting traditional kind of floor plans for real estate. I also did one recently just if you want to focus on getting square footage. Maybe you are measuring footprints from the exterior and want to do that for some realtors you work with, or maybe you are a realtor and you're just looking for better calculations. You can do all that in this. One of the other things we're going to look at is some of the extra downloaded content. So for that, we're going to head into our browser. This is an optional step, obviously, and let's have a look at that. All right, so we are at the sweethome3d.com website. Free interior design application. Now, some of the things that we want are some extra 3D models. So you see 3D models contributions, free art license. You're going to have to pay attention to the licenses of the products you're using. 3D models. So, all sorts of new models that we can add on to what it comes with, and they look just like this. Wash basins, coffee tables, sofas, beds, whatever, cars, trees. So all that is available here, and there's even some of the 2D floor plan stuff is also through this website. Additional contributor libraries right here. So yeah, let's just gloss over that and cruise back to Sweet Home 3D. Okay, here we are. So, just again, really quickly going over what we have here. I think I covered that somewhere else. We are going to work mostly in drawing walls and drawing floors. I don't usually use this computer, so it doesn't have much of the extra libraries filled in. This is just the basic stuff that comes packaged with the product. Let's go like this. And we are going to start off with just a regular old box shape, and maybe let's just put something like that. Not a very big place. Let's just see what we happen to make. Get rid of that one. Okay, cool. So let's just imagine that this is an open concept place, and we're going to put a bedroom with bathroom, and how about a closet over here. And yeah, let's just call this a one-bedroom place. Make it nice and easy for our tutorial. And just in the interest of keeping everything clear, let's put this. And pay attention to visible in 3D view. That might come in handy later, depending on how you want to display what you make here. So closet, these are just for our own information. So we'll call this primary. And we'll call this open living space. And we'll call this mudroom entry. So from there, and this is pretty well similar to what you may have already been familiar with, maybe making a floor plan for 2D as I've shown in previous videos. Now, next thing we're going to do, we can kind of freeze there once you've gotten to this point. Let's say that this is a scale plan, and however you arrived at that, we're going to get this one. This is floor. So let's say the bathroom floor has a tile type. So we're going to do that there. And let's say that the bedroom has a carpet. So we'll do that like that. And let's say that we have everything as a nice hardwood in here, and we'll just make a small area that is, let's say, the kitchen, and we're going to put a different flooring in there. And now these all look the same right now, and that is fine. What we are eventually going to do is click on each of these. Now this is modified room. This is actually the floor space of that room. Let's turn off ceilings. And now let's choose a texture for our floor. This, we said, was the bathroom, so we're going to go with a gray tiles because we don't have a lot to choose from. And scale, I find they kind of have some of these things a little small, so let's go a little bigger. There we go. Our first room, let's say, we're going to get rid of ceiling, and let's go with texture, and let's call this one a wooden floor, and that's in our bedroom. And open living, let's also call this a old wooden floor. How about just for some variation? And this will also be another tile type. Let's just find another tile. There, red tiles. Great. And as you can see, we're starting to get the building blocks now. You know, this not terribly presentable yet, right? So we've got some junk on the screen that makes it hard to take in all the information. And let's not forget about the mudroom entry. All right. Now we can actually, I've never shown you this before, and this is our 3D view now for the scene we've just set up. As you can see, these walls look a little short, and that's because typically when you're making these, you don't want to have full 8 foot or, you know, however tall the walls are meant to be, blocking a good portion of what may be in this corner, or, you know, especially in the case of smaller bathrooms, if you have full height walls, you're going to be missing out on a lot of the information you're trying to present. So that's why I choose to make shorter walls. One thing you might want to do that kind of changes the look is take what is going to be a back wall in maybe your presentation. Let's call this a back wall and this a back wall. So we're going to go in here, and height, let's go back to 8 feet. And same with this one, let's go back to 8 feet. Because really, there's nothing behind this, proposedly, in the way we are planning to present it, so why bother having it cut down? Let's show, you know, let's drop some windows in there. Let's do a double French window in there. Everything is pretty well customizable, so let's drop this height down to 4, and let's start the elevation at 3. And let's maybe drop the height even further more. There we go. So now we have what looks like a nice bathroom window. And let's try one of these, 2 of these in the bedroom. And we'll do another one of those. When you download some of the other user-contributed libraries, you get a lot more choice, even when it comes to doors and all of that. So, you know, that's why it's one of the very first things you should probably do with this. So here we go. Kind of semi-regular layout, little shared ensuite here, entry to the master primary bedroom. Here we go. Now you can see you're already getting something. We can actually even use this software to render our images, but I like to, you know, once I have a finished product here, I like to bring it into a different software. So assuming that you have placed, you know, an armchair and now, I'm not used to actually having the screen open, so typically I work like this. I find keeping 3D stuff turned off until you need it speeds up the system. Let's just call that done. Okay. So, as you can see, we can cruise into there, and we have what looks, you know, like not a bad view. This will improve with better textures. And over here we have the wall color selector. And this is just so you can change the color of the walls inside your 3D plan. So we're just going to pick one. See, and now we're going to see that represented there. Another thing I like to do is just for some added separation, make the tops of the walls black. Alright, there we go. Not a bad little layout. Obviously, we did this pretty darn quick for the purposes of a tutorial, but you know, if you had a real space to work from and a bigger selection, you would, you know, have a little more time of putting some stuff in here. But let's say that this is good for our purposes. Now, what we can do, we can either choose to render in the software, so it's got a full rendering workflow inside it. Now, it's not, if you're familiar with rendering, it does, you know, it leaves a lot to be desired, let's put it that way. And substitute for doing a proper rendering in something like Blender, but it's also enough to get you, you know, something workable right off the bat, especially if this is just a product you, or, you know, a service you are maybe going to test out or just feel the waters with. You may want to learn to walk before you can run, do some practices for yourself. Maybe you have a slow day and you want to make one for a client and just say, hey, what do you think of this? I do that sometimes when I'm trying out new products and services with my regular clients. So, you know, here we go. We'd save an image and call it that, and wherever you have to save it. Now, as I mentioned, this is all about plugins, this software, and, you know, user contributed content and whatnot. So another thing that we can actually add, I don't have it in this one, but you can start to make different quality renders by getting different rendering engines. So they give you more flexibility over all sorts of different things. So yeah, the different rendering engines will give you, you know, some more control within this software. And as a beginner, I can understand why you would want to minimize bringing, you know, transferring products between software, because that does complicate things. And, you know, let's figure out this before we bring in new problems to our life, right? So there we go. That is, you know, a starter point of this. Let's have a look at what that looks like in here. If, let's say, you want to produce this as a 2D floor plan with color, we could take off some of this information. So let's get rid of display area. Display area on all those, I can scratch that. And then all we have to do from this is just export plan as SVG. Another way I like to do things, 3D view, and then we're going to go export to OBJ format. Now this things get a little more complicated here, but after you export to OBJ, you can pull it into a different rendering engine, being Blender. Now Blender gives you tons of control over, you know, what's in the background, how the background is rendered, which direction the lighting is all coming from, you know, and different qualities of that light. You might want to put light streaming in through these windows here. You might want to change the colors of the doors or the door frames, or make nice wooden textures, or match the granite countertops. Who knows what you actually want to do, but all of that will be possible with a little bit more skill set in Blender. So from here we could go into that software. And here we are in Blender. So let's say that you were going to bring this into a different rendering engine. Pretty easy. We would just go import, find our wavefront OBJ, locate that file, and then you'd start working with it in the Blender interface. You will have lost a lot of the abilities to, you know, shift these things as just clickable objects like that. But, you know, what you lose here, you end up gaining in other features within Blender too. So let's leave it at that. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and I will do my best to answer them in the comments. Have a look at the channel for lots of other information when it comes to real estate marketing. It's not just about floor plans and software here. I also go over some photo, video editing, stuff like that. You know, a little bit of business planning for yourself. So lots to watch, and we'll catch up with you soon.